This is a sugar beet. Now, most of you out there watching this, at least locally, probably know that, but there's a lot of people who will see this that don't know that. But this is a sugar beet. Now, this particular beet weighs 3.5 pounds, which is larger, almost twice as large as what I guess the average sugar beet is. 3.5 pounds. But I want you to see this. Look at this baby. This sugar beet weighs 6.5 pounds. He's the granddaddy of sugar beets, aren't you? Yeah. So, now, why they grow different sizes is something I really don't know. Perhaps the big one was like at the end of the row, they tell me, but there's all kinds of reasons why. And farmers and those who are in that industry would be able to tell you why. But they say the average one is between 1.5 to 2 pounds, somewhere in that range. My good friend John Dillman Jr., who was the general sales manager for Beta Seed, a number of years ago, gave me this jar of seeds. I'd asked him what a seed looked like. Well, he brought me this whole little jar. Don't know what he was really expecting me to do with it, but I keep it. And it reminds me of something. And the tininess of the seed. This little seed looks like this. It's this size, as you can see on this picture of my finger holding the seed. Now, this particular seed is called a monogerm seed, meaning that it will grow one beet. The original seeds were multigerm. They would grow several plants. And back in the 30s, there was a geneticist in Russia by the name of Savitsky. And don't even ask me to pronounce his first name. But he worked with a colleague at developing a monogerm seed because he felt like one seed with one beet would be more efficient, and he was right. Well, he did pretty well on his research and all actually developed it there in Russia, but World War II came and just put a screeching halt to all of his research and everything. Well, in 1947, he escaped from the Soviet Union with his wife Helen, who was also a scientist, and came to this country. But not long afterward, he was employed by the USDA. He was stationed at the sugar beet laboratory in Salt Lake City. And so he began his search for the monogerm seed. He searched many, many fields, and finally in one field in Salem, Oregon, just north of Salem, Oregon, in a field that had 300,000 plants, he found five that were monogerm. Out of that 5, as he investigated them, only 2 were actually 2 monogerm seeds. And then there's a lot more history that went into that, but today we have the monogerm seed and this very efficient operation of growing beets. It's really fascinating. That tiny little seed grew something like this. Well, minus the eyes and hat, of course. But one seed grew this. That one tiny little seed grew into that big beet. Jesus told a parable about that one time. He said, "How can I describe the Kindom of God?" Now, he's talking about the Kingdom of God here. What story should I use to illustrate it? It is like a mustard seed planted in the ground. It is the smallest of all seeds, but it becomes the largest of all garden plants. It grows long branches, and birds can make their nests in its shade. That's found in Mark's Gospel, chapter 4, verses 30 through 32. Now, of course, the mustard seed isn't the smallest seed in the world, but it was proverbial for in those days. They used to compare small things to a mustard seed, and so Jesus used one of the common proverbs of the day to tell how the mustard seed develops into this great tree. And of course, what he was illustrating is how small, humble beginnings can grow into something very large that will be a blessing to many people. And that's what the kingdom of God is all about, being a blessing to many people. From that small beginning, that humble little baby that was born in a manger to poor parents, the kingdom of God has grown around the world to what it is today. And that's what he was illustrating by this parable about the mustard seed. So why do I keep this around? I keep this around to remind me that small things can grow into something big. In our life, that same thing can apply. Small things that we start, that we do for God, can grow into something big. Maybe not something that we see. I'm not talking about an institution or an organization, but I'm talking about the influence and impact that you have on the life of people around you, your family, your children, and so on. The small seeds of faith and trust and hope that you implant in them will grow, and it'll grow in their kids and their kids and their kids, and it'll become a great thing. So understand that your life counts. It counts for Jesus because you're like a little mustard seed planted in God's kingdom that is bringing about wonderful and great and mighty things. Small things can become very large, and especially when we're talking about the kingdom of God. And, of course, the beets.